Last episode, we fought a Beartic attacking a Smoochum, and this theme was playing. I already said that this was a remix of the Frontier Brain theme from Emerald. What I haven't said yet is that the first Wild Pokemon theme used to also be a Frontier Brain theme, instead of Glitch X City's X and Y Super Training remix you've heard already. The original Wild 1 theme sounded like this. Quite a banger to lead into exploring Reborn for the first time. Now, I used to believe that both this and the current Trainer 2 theme were both the track from Emerald, but I learned while researching for this video that that isn't true. This one is the theme from Platinum. However, you might forgive me making that mistake when you hear this part. That's unmistakably from the Emerald theme. Maybe Glitch X City wanted to mix the two a little bit, since the Platinum theme has a similar section. In any case, I always liked this theme as Wild 1, but I imagine Amethyst wanted to avoid overlap, so she decided to change it to the X and Y theme to differentiate it from Trainer 2, while also making the early game seem a little more calm. Of course, that is just my opinion. This is just another aspect of the history of this game's development that I wanted to share. But now I want to share a different kind of history that I do know for a fact. And that is what teams I used to defeat most of the major battles in this game from my previous playthrough. This is a little peek into the making of this series, which is really only possible because of how I backed up save files at various times throughout my completed file's lifetime. I did this back then with only the intention of having a way to easily show interested people what kind of horrendous fights the game puts you through. Those save files are the cornerstone of the planning of this series, as it allows me to go through time to get footage of said horrendous fights so that I can constantly tease them. But really, if it weren't for them, I would have had to play this entire game again first, recording everything, then make each video as I had wanted, and even then there's a good chance I missed something all the way through. These save files make that unnecessary, and allow me to make the videos concurrently with my progress, so everything seems more organic while still getting to have my foreshadowing. In that same kind of vein, I also save screenshots of my teams throughout the game after winning a major battle. Something I said in the first episode is that I didn't use legendary or pseudo-legendary Pokemon to beat the game, and I ask you to take my word for it. Even though these pictures actually don't corroborate my claim any better, I figured you'd be interested to see who I was using. So from now on, I'll be including the team picture from my last playthrough after each major victory, if I had one for it. Since I only thought of this idea after the first 5 episodes were already made, I'm going to take a moment to catch up on the battles we've already passed up to this point, starting with Julia. God, how many times am I going to say that phrase? Actually, looking through my screenshots, I didn't have one for Julia or Florinia, and even worse, I don't have a screenshot or backup save for anything in episode 3. Including both the Tangrowths and even Corey. So, sorry, won't be able to show everything, but with my backup saves I can still show you Julia's and Florinia's fights. For Julia, you can see that I had some odd choices, like Trubbish and Whismur. Really, I wasn't taking the early game too seriously since the last thing I had fought before restarting the game was... well, I already teased it once this episode. I distinctly remember losing frequently to Julia with this team, and I smashed my head against the wall with it until it gave me what I wanted. Not a strategy that lends itself to having fun. For Florinia, you can see that I obviously didn't change that mindset very much. Loudred and still Trubbish, while at least switching out Wartortle for Numel. You can see that my past team is very close to my current team for this fight. Like I already said, I have nothing to show for Corey or the Tangrowths, probably because I didn't think to do all this record keeping until after him, and not considering him major enough since he doesn't give a badge. Next was Shelly, and as you can see, I was pretty stuck in my ways with Loudred and Charim. These pictures, by the way, were usually directly following the victory, so my team wasn't so worse for wear as you'd expect for Shelly. It'll be easy to tell which fights I only won thanks to sheer unadulterated luck. Like this next one. Loudred gave his spot to Meowstic by the time I fought Sigmund. You can see that this team did not fare very well with him. Only the Pokemon you'd most expect to survive was awake for this picture. This brings us to the fight that concluded last episode, Shade. Apparently I really liked this Loudred, and something else you may have noticed in all these pictures is that my team was missing one avatar of Fury. I have no idea what I was doing with this team against Shade, and it apparently came down to Camerupt again. That's very interesting to note, as that finally brings us back to the present day, where we had just defeated the entity for the 4th badge with that very same Pokemon, and had just watched our friends get abducted by Meteor. The only thing we can do is try going back to Peridot to see if we can find Kane. We don't have to worry about that though, as Kane was trying to find me too. We meet up in Jasper Ward as he begins to explain what just happened, but then stops himself, saying we may have company. He goes into the police station, and we follow to find him and also Amaria, apparently safe after the rumble in the jungle. Kane tells us that when Meteor ambushed them, Anna threw him a data chip. Kane fortunately bumped into Amaria, who is trying to plumb its contents but is having no luck. She says though that help should be arriving shortly. That is followed by someone saying a line that tells the whole tale. In walks Ace. Kane, understandably, is not happy and tells us we can take them on, but Amaria assures us that it's fine, to which Ace reveals that they are not with Team Meteor anymore. Amaria goes on to state that Ace saved her life. You might wonder from what, or more accurately, from who. The green-haired woman, Lynn. We are told that Amaria was also defeated by Lynn, just like Heather. More context will be given soon, but suffice it to say, Lynn appeared to have no difficulty defeating Amaria, and belittled her as weak. However, Lynn demonstrates more than just prowess in battling. Her own physical strength and speed seem unreal. What's more, Lynn now tells Amaria to surrender her bracelets. Ace appears to understand what this is about, and Amaria denies this, saying they were a gift. But Lynn isn't asking, as she strikes Amaria remorselessly. However, this causes Ace to intercede, which prompts Lynn to remind Ace of what Borealis had just done minutes earlier. Ace doesn't back down, calling out Lynn's cruelty and tells Lynn that they will only capture Amaria without harm. They command this to Lynn as her superior. Lynn complies with Ace, as she puts it, for the last time. Indeed, Ace relates that their position in Meteor was terminated, and instead of bringing in Amaria, Ace helped her escape instead. Amaria is thankful, convinced Lynn would have resorted to worse violence. In the end though, she still possesses the sapphire bracelets, once again capitalized. Amaria defends her trust of Ace, as Ace mentions that they have already been replaced. This brings us to the reason Ace is here, and how they can help. Ace is apparently versed in the black magic of IT. I guess the black hat on their head has another meaning. Ace was Meteor's systems expert until now, as we saw at Mosswater. As for Ace's replacement, the only thing they can tell us is that it was a girl using the pseudonym T. That brings us back to the data chip that Anna threw to Kane. Ace takes the keyboard and quickly breaks open the cache, making a passing mention that they are doing this in order to avoid apprehension from the police. Ace cracks the code and reveals what was on the chip, that being much of the same data that was contained at Mosswater that they themselves deleted. Ace surmises that the chip must have belonged to Corey as a means to betray Meteor that he ended up never being able to use. This means the chip is assuredly the one that was on the ruby ring that Heather had, but this brings up a strange point. Why on earth did Anna know about that? But more pressing is what information the chip contains, as we learn that new nightmares are coming true. It gives the whereabouts of 3 functioning pulses. That information apparently surprises Ace, as Amaria relays that one is being set up at Apophel Beach, one in the Bixbysian Wasteland which elicits a response from Kane, and one more, in Peridot Ward. Amaria asks Ace to confirm this, who can only confirm some, wondering how much else they are not privy to. Kane, meanwhile, is more concerned that this doesn't help them rescue the children. Ace, however, is not worried, which gets a disbelieving response from Kane. Ace says that thanks to Meteor's lack of cybersecurity, they have kept in the know about their activities, and that includes the fact that Sigmund has forbidden Meteor from harming the kids that were abducted. Not sure if that's what I'd call safe, but we don't have an option on that front. Instead, as Amaria suggests, we have to go after the Pulse in Peridot, which Ace and Kane both agree is the best or maybe only course of action. Specifically, we must go to Black Steam Factory, the place where we met everyone's favorite character. He's not in this episode at all, but still, fuck you, Fern. With that, the 3 depart for Black Steam. You may be expecting me to say that we need to go do some other miscellaneous events now. Actually, other than going to the former Aqua Gang base on a windy night to find this Murkrow, not this time. There's nothing new in the city for us to do. Don't worry, there will be a lot to do later in this episode. But haha, I've tricked you! Now we will watch some news! Gardevoir gives us nothing new. We already know what she's reporting on. We're the ones that created that news. But on the next channel, Miss Gossip is interviewing someone new, and that is Kiki, the sensei of Apophil Academy, who Victoria has mentioned before. Kiki explains that, though she is sensei, she doesn't expect everyone to take all instruction from only herself, or that she wouldn't learn from her students. She advises that one can only make a difference in the lives of others when one has gained peace within themselves. The rest of the interview is mostly just Gossip Gardevoir being a ditz. But Gardevoir wasn't the only one to do a piece on Kiki. DJ Arclay opens his Reborn rundown introducing the very same person. He qualifies this segment saying that this is a historical episode, one to describe Kiki distinctly as the former fighting type gym leader, though having still honed her technique since handing the position over to purportedly the strongman Samson. Arclight mentions Kiki's ace specifically, Medicham, a perfect representation of Zen and balance within a fighting type Pokemon. He mentions that it likes to set up using Meditate, so take it down fast. Well, it's good we don't have to fight Kiki, since she's retired. No sir, no reason to fight her since she gives no badge. Last thing. The hunting channel talks about something that can be found on the shores of Apophil across Azurine Lake, and that is... I'm sure I don't need to tell you the merits of a Shuckle. Don't fuckle with Shuckle. With that, we proceed over to Black Steam Factory in Peridot Ward, where we find all three of our compatriots waiting. Talk to Amaria last. Instead, start with Kane, who isn't shy to say that he still doesn't trust Ace. He asks us what we think of them, and your answer will affect some relationship scores. I chose yes here because it gives more positives than the other answer. Of course, this lowers our score with Kane, but again, not a huge deal. What's a bigger deal is what happens when we talk with Ace. They ask us a particularly out-of-the-blue question. What is our favorite nature? Don't answer this question nonchalantly. Here's why. Yes, Ace will give you 1 mint of the nature you chose, which for me was modest, higher special attack and lower attack. I intend to give this to Meowstic, as she is the only Pokemon in my party that is pretty much using only one side of the physical special dichotomy. I'm not sure yet what the others would be best having, so modest Meowstic it is. After this, Ace mentions that we had better prepare wisely, for leaving the premises once we begin will not be possible. Finally, talk to Amaria, which initiates our infiltration of Blacksteam. She tells us though that the door is locked, but Ace quickly interjects by saying we have to go through the door. Amaria repeats herself that the door is locked, and Ace does this self-depreciating routine until they announce the existence of a second door. In a flash, Ace steps forward and the three of us are suddenly on top of the roof. A magician, of course, won't reveal their secrets, an expression that carries a more sinister tone in the case of Ace, who warps away to assist Kane. In the meantime, Amaria wastes no time to charge into the open rooftop door. We follow after her and quickly find her confronted by 2 grunts, and she asks us to help defeat them. In a moment, you'll realize this is entirely unnecessary. Holy fucking shit. Do you remember me mentioning how the higher ranked gym leaders matter a lot? Now you see why. 80 fucking 7. Now the horrible realization may dawn on you. This gym leader lost to Lynn and was called weak. Of course, there's absolutely nothing these 2 grunts can do to her, as she heads down the stairs following the fleeing grunt. The other one is dumbfounded by her strength, but claims that the commander can take her easily. What kind of strength does Meteor have? Ignoring your despair, head down the stairs and find that Amaria is going to have to beat a lot of level 40s. As for us, she asks us another Boolean question, and it shouldn't be hard to know which answer increases your relationship score with her. She then uses her Lapras to open a lane for us to run through, as she draws her Kingdra as well to fight the army of grunts. She tells us she'll be fine and to find the pulse. Upon walking south, we first find... Judging by Ace's reaction, it seems Kane was right to be suspicious of them. Ace, despite seeming to admit that our actions confounded their plans, still asks us yet another yes and no question about if we still trust them and would believe they are a double agent against Meteor. Regardless of what you answer, Ace goes on to offer a few, as they put it, reveals. First, the fact they were fired was only a half-truth, as they were actually reassigned. It seems that the data cache that Corey absconded with is probably no more, with Ace hinting that there is yet more to know than even that. However, that doesn't mean Ace wasn't surprised about the information that ship had. Reveal number 2. The meteor shower behind us was not a spontaneous one, and that splitting up the party was part of Ace's plan. Kane has been captured, though Ace tries to assure us that neither he nor the kids are in danger. You know, I'm not sure I can trust you. Of course, there's the last wrinkle in their plan, which is me, standing here listening to them reveal all of these plans so freely, which leads into reveal 3. At least Ace had to push me one tile up, otherwise I might as well have had brown fur, big ears, and a sign that says fuck. We land in an enclosure filled with caged Pokemon. Walking around towards the grunt will inform us that these were the Pokemon stolen through the daycare scam in Obsidia. If you talk to him again, he'll mock you and say the only way you're getting out of here is to break the metal bars. I guess this grunt was a dropout civil engineer, as he then tells you exactly how you do that. But of course, that will never happen while I'm in a cell full of disgruntled creatures with alarming amounts of raw power. So thus we begin the puzzle section of the dungeon, and it is very deserving of that description. Around the room, several Pokemon sit idly and seem to do very little, such as the Lickitung, the Vanillites, the... Oh ho! A Roggenrola, an injured Makuhita, a Cyndaquil, and... Seems like that wasn't very helpful. There are 2 other Pokemon in this room. This sleeping Abra and this Loudred. The Abra doesn't do anything while it's asleep, but if you talk to the Loudred, then your hearing turns dull and the Abra wakes up. Now with your hearing damaged, go back over to the Jigglypuff and talk to it. Doing so will cause it to sing again, and when that happens while you can't hear, the Abra goes back to sleep, and so will the guard. However, with the Abra sleeping again, we can't make progress, so talk to Loudred to wake him and the guard up again. Finally, what happens when we talk to the awakened Abra? It will apparently bond with our minds, which actually means that when we talk to another Pokemon now, Abra will teleport that Pokemon to the only open cage that looks like the others, which starts out directly in front of the bars where the grunt is. You might start to understand the way to escape, but there is something important to do here first. There's that Ditto in the top left corner that will transform into whatever is below it. What if we had it transform into what would be a healthy Makuhita? Come here, you beautiful anything I want you to be. Now, I made a slight mistake here. Before you bring Makuhita to that cage, bring Lickitung to it first. That will apparently reward you a rare candy. I read that you could get the Ditto, but didn't look at the entire solution, so that's my loss. Now comes the actual escape. As the guard so kindly taught you, you need to heat the bars, then cool them. So let's put Cyndaquil in front of the bars and oh. So I guess the guard telling you to stop is enough to make you stop? What's he gonna do? Open the cage and make us stop? Yeah, I'd like to see you try, buddy. But it's okay. We have another way. Simply cause yourself some hearing loss and have Jigglypuff serenade us again. This will put the guard to sleep, and since Cyndaquil is already in position, it can blast the bars with fire. Now we need to move that Vanillite into position, but Abra is asleep again. Well, wake him up with Loudred and then have Abra warp the Cyndaquil and Vanillite around. When Vanillite is in position, deafen yourself and sleep in the guard. One Ice Beam later, repeat this whole process with the Roggenrola, and just like that, you're free. If you step out now, you'll see that the shattering of metal is apparently not enough to rouse someone from a Jigglypuff sleep. However, Loudred can. Now let's talk to the guard again. Oh, whoops, maybe you'd like to see what he's actually saying. There you go, and now we wipe the floor with this grunt. Yes, you do, but don't worry, so do I. You see that staircase to the left there? The one that, despite being half blocked by boxes, still has a tile directly in front of it? Hope that doesn't bite me in the next few minutes. Now you are free to walk around the factory, battling trainers positioned throughout the base, none of which are too troublesome. Just be sure not to let anything faint on your team, as you won't be able to revive them without items for a while. Now, even though I said there are no troublesome trainers, the game would have you believe otherwise as you meet a new rank of grunt here, a Meteor Knight. But come on, he has 2 Pokemon. The first is a Machop and the second is a regular Graveler. What kind of higher rank is that? Defeating that scary grunt will give you access to a control panel that will open the front door and let you leave to heal your Pokemon now. When you go down this hallway, you'll discover the most likely way to progress the story is probably behind those gates. Ace seems to be truthful in one thing. Meteor isn't much for security if they left this first gate's controls right next to the gate. Now we need to find the other controls, which will be up those stairs past a female ranked up guard. On this second floor, go over to the right and open this box for a large candy. Then on the left, if you take that light shard, you can get a revive. You'll notice this is where you fell down the trapdoor, and after fighting this guard and 2 others in this hallway, you'll be able to pick up this Thunderstone and open the second gate. Now the way into another nightmare is open. Use that light shard if you need it. Of course, you have no idea what Pokemon they are using in this new pulse, unless you have a brain unlike me. But besides that, a creeping dread fills you as you have to brave a battle against an unknown force. Upon entering the room, the grunt standing guard immediately calls for their boss, and as you walk forward, you come face to back with the same sinister man from the Crystal Cavern, along with Zell. Lumi, seemingly caringly, tells us that we shouldn't have come here. Yeah, well, Eve shouldn't have made that pulse, but here we are. Now the leader turns and tells us he did not expect us here, thinking our meeting in the underground cavern was happenstance. He realizes that we must be like all the other people of Reborn that he despises. He belittles our strength, despite our ability to get here, but tells us he will grant us an audience with the Pokemon we are seeking. We approach the head of the room to witness the abominable sight, which, in case you can't tell, is a muck. The man tells us that, whereas we defeated the Tangros, which were newer, this pulse muck is older, also created by Eve. He then tells us what this pulse was made to do, which was to pollute Azurine Lake in a way that standard contamination could not achieve. Why? To drive away humans, and allow nature to reclaim the Reborn region. However, this goal would come at the cost of this muck's life, to which the commander has no remorse. He marvels instead that a pile of sludge could become even more decrepit. This then causes Eve to speak up, saying that she could have done a better job with the machine if... Okay. With a calm threat, the commander tells Zell to step back into line, at which Eve apologizes to the commander, now finally named Commander Solaris. You, gonna put that Garchomp away? Solaris returns to his uncaring monologue, saying the muck will surely die, as a sacrifice for the good of the region. That's when Solaris asks us a question. What will I sacrifice? Well, I'm not dead, but hopefully the smell of the muck masks what I just did. Solaris quickly identifies Amaria as the holder of the sapphire bracelets, and tells her that he will let us live if she gives them to him. Like before with Lynn, Amaria has no intention of doing so, saying that Tanya gave them to her, but then Solaris laughs at the mention of that name, and attempts to sow seeds of doubt into Amaria's head. She is unfazed by this though, claiming that she owes her life to Tanya, and will defend the bracelets to her dying breath, something that Solaris is ready to test. While Amaria prepares to battle the leader of Team Meteor, she tells us that we need to deactivate the pulse. However, Zero does not permit this so easily. This time around, Zell is going to do what Eve suggested at Obsidia, which is defend the pulse with their own Pokemon. They start with Glaceon, which my Growlithe is well suited to defeat. The Glaceon even misses on the first Icy Wind, so 2 Flamethrowers takes it out. We see on the second Icy Wind that Growlithe could have easily stood up to it anyway. At this time, Growlithe learns Crunch, overriding Fire Fang, which could be useful to the next opponent. On its way is Espeon, so I leave Growlithe out to try using its new move on the second evolution, though Espeon is almost assuredly faster. Indeed it is, and it uses Psychic, so Growlithe didn't have a chance there. I didn't choose to bring the Furious Cricket to this nightmare, but I have a Meowstic with Shadow Ball, which I send out. I realize that I could change the field to Short Circuit now to help Shadow Ball, but a little late. Instead, I go Fake Out into Light Screen and then start throwing Shadow Balls. Unluckily for me, this Psychic type can also handle other Psychic types by using Signal Beam. However, my 2 Shadow Balls are enough to defeat the Psychic Eevee, no doubt thanks to the Modest Mint I just gave Meowstic. Now comes one more non-Pulse opponent, which is yet another evolution, Umbreon. I send out the best man for the job, Hariyama, whose Vital Throw is good for this since Umbreon is also going to be quick as a bullet, though it can't be as quick as my Fake Out, after which I follow with Vital Throw, though it confuses him first. 50% chance says yes, I can hit the Dark type, but I need one more as my Light Screen falls. It goes for a weak Assurance, and I get additionally lucky to shake off the confusion and finish the Umbreon. It's interesting. 3 personalities within Zell, and 3 evolutions. Which Pokemon responds to which personality do you think? But this is all the appetizer for the worst main course you've ever had. Next, of course, is the Pulse Muck. We didn't get a readout before entering this fight, which is my dumbass fault, but I'll explain later. However, a Muck should be Poison type at least, so I'm sending in Camerupt to try to bury it. It then appears before us, a nauseating, sorry sight that both brings and begs for death. We go for Earth Power to try putting this thing out of its misery. That looked pretty familiar, didn't it? Kinda like that ability that Greninja has? Yes, the Pulse Muck possesses Protean, and Camerupt didn't stand a chance, still being slower somehow than the practically immobile Sludge Pile. Now it's a Water type, so Zebstrika runs out to take it on. As you'd expect, Zeb is faster than the Muck and uses a field-boosted Discharge. But that's all we did? Worse, this Muck has a great moveset, and now Proteans into ground as it throws a Mud Bomb at me. Unlike my quad-weak Camel, Zeb can actually withstand the Muck's attack with 2 HP to spare, though losing accuracy too. However, his move choice is reduced to 1, Flame Charge, which does nearly nothing, and Muck changes to Poison to Sludge Wave my Zebra. The Shifting Slime, being its typical Poison type now, informs my decision to send out Meowstic, who of course starts with a Fake Out. He says, even though my aforementioned dumb ass skips it to do Psychic immediately. What's really awful is how we pull out a crit with Psychic and it still survives. Muck then unleashes its last move, showing that it can also have control over the field effect too, by using Discharge. Meowstic can't survive with low HP and faints to pass the wheel to someone else. But I'm down to 2 Pokemon, and now that I know it has Discharge, Greninja's best move will leave him open to it. However, at such little health, I have to hope a Water Shuriken finishes him off. Now, are you ready to groan? Yeah, that's it. Water Shuriken also apparently wouldn't have been enough anyway, even with a 5 hit. I vainly try to use a smokescreen to keep the battle alive, but Discharge blasts down my ninja even without the weakness. Hariyama comes out to get swamped by muddy water. Now remember that long cutscene we just watched before the fight? Well yeah, we have to watch it again. And even though I can hold the cancel button to speed through it super fast, it still takes almost 20 seconds to get back to selecting a move in battle. Get used to doing that. Anyway, the second attempt starts the same way, and Growlithe indeed can survive both hits of Icy Wind to melt the Glaceon. Instead of Espeon though, Umbreon is taking second position, so Hariyama will try to meet it the same way. The exchange proceeds the same way as well, including ignoring confusion to bring the Umbreon to red. However, Zell decides to pull the Dark type for their Psychic type instead. I ignore confusion a second time to land a minor Vital Throw, but Psychic from an Espeon is far too strong for Hariyama. I try to handle the Espeon with Meowstic again, but Meowstic is much worse for wear after hitting herself after Signal Beam confusion. On the second try, she Shadow Balls the Psychic Eevee, but it's not enough, and Meowstic is done. This attempt seems to be going much worse. but I keep going with Greninja, who can go out and clean up the 2 weakened evolutions with Water Shuriken. First Espeon, who is no question, and then Umbreon, who was a question, but 3 hits does it. Now Muck is burbling forth again, and this time I know I can't leave it unhindered, so I use Zeb to paralyze it first. This goes off without a hitch, and Zeb once again manages to survive on the same amount of HP after Mud Bomb. However, now that Muck is the ground type, there's no sense in wasting Zeb here. I switch to Growlithe to sacrifice, waiting to see what type Muck will become. That type is Poison, to my fortune, as Camerupt then follows Growlithe to outspeed this time and land an Earth Power. And that was pathetic. We are in a bad way if Camerupt can do so little, though he gets lucky by dodging a muddy water. Also, I didn't mention it yet, but that damn Muck is also holding leftovers. Isn't that fair? Now that Muck is water type, Camerupt is not well suited to hurt it, so I try using Rock Slide for flinching. Instead of a flinch, I get a second muddy miss, and Camerupt gets to go again. On Muck's third attempt though, Camerupt is drowned in muddy water again. However, the Muck is open to an electric attack now, and my wounded Zeb comes out to deal a big hit with a boosted discharge, but it's not enough. Finally though, that paralysis I gave the Muck kicks in and it loses its turn, meaning it's still water type. However, now that we are on short circuit, the first electric attack on this field will only do just above half the damage we just did. Even with a second discharge, it may not be enough, and Zell probably has an itchy potion finger right about now. And then... nothing wrong with some good old-fashioned luck. Good thing too, because this fight had the makings of being another awful slog, while also having to skip a long cutscene every time we want to attempt it. Of course, it's not like this is the worst offender for that. Now, like I said at the start of the episode, let me quickly show you the team I used to beat this Muck before. Type-wise, it appears to be a pretty similar makeup to what I use today, the only difference being having Hariyama instead of Cherrim, which was better suited to take down Umbreon than my older team. With the battle won, Lumi speaks for Zell to beg Solaris for forgiveness for losing, to which he is not interested in granting said forgiveness. However, he turns this barb towards Zell against us instead, remarking that the damage has already been done. He relents on his pursuit for the bracelets, and instead commands his Tyranitar, his second straight pseudo-legendary, to launch one final attack. Holy shit! Team Meteor evacuates the building and leaves me here to see if Amaria is alive. Apparently, I shit-talked her too much in episode 2, because apparently not only is Amaria alive after taking a superpower from a Tyranitar, she is able to stand and walk. Apparently you are just stronger as a high-ranked league member. Amaria thanks us for stopping the pulse, and though she is worried about what Solaris said about it being too late, she is hopeful that the water will be cleaned eventually. There's apparently a water treatment center that will surely definitely take care of everything. It's all under control. After trying to celebrate our victory, Amaria discovers that an attack from a pseudo-legendary may have done more damage than she realized. She admits that this will bring her crusades against Meteor to an end for now. She says we still must do something about the other pulses, though the one in Bixbysian Wasteland isn't that important since no one lives there. However, the one in Apophil is a serious threat and must be dealt with. Amaria asks us to go there in her stead while saying that, in order to save the kids, we can get the TMX for strength to get through the RailNet's new barriers. Amaria tells us that Kiki has it. Maybe she'll just give it to me without fighting for it. In order to reach Apophil, Amaria lends us her warehouse key to access a boat back in Coral Ward. She tells us that she will have to return home to recover, saying she lives outside of Reborn City in the north with Titania. That's when she remembers what Solaris said, and also who Ace said took their place within Meteor, a girl named T. But Amaria waves this off, though finds it hard to believe that Ace saved her life to then betray her anyway. Amaria then explains she will not believe Titania is helping Team Meteor, and starts in on some... well, I'm not going to paraphrase her Titania poetry, so read it if you want. Upon the conclusion of that performance, Amaria wishes us luck and exits from the game for a long time. That leaves us to explore this room more if we want. though all we find is a designation of the pulse we just dismantled. So let me show you what brain-having people would have done. Go back to the floor with the caged Pokemon, and actually go into this door. You'll find a moderately dark room, and immediately inside, you will find the Pulse Dex entry for number 4. Yeah, and what does it tell us? That Pulse 4 is a muck with Protean and ungodly special defense. Would have been nice not to have been trying to use so many special attacks. Maybe I can salvage this stupidity by claiming that I just wanted to keep the Pulse's identity unknown until we got there. Yeah, I think they'll buy that. Anyway, that's not all that's down here. Down the hallway is the TM for Echoed Voice, and around the other way is a large candy and a magnet powder, an item that appears to have no use currently. When it becomes necessary, I'll bring it up. That's the end of Black Steam Factory. We still have nothing to do in Reborn City proper, so let's go immediately to Coral Ward and unlock this boat. Arriving at the warehouse near where we met Amaria, we can unlock it and enter to commandeer the boat, sailing it directly to... For the first time, we have exited the city of Reborn and have landed on Apophil Beach. However, the music, Glitch X City's remix of Pokemon Mystery Dungeons Through the Sea of Time, starts out with a sad melody to convey the fact that, though Apophil is away from Reborn City, its influence still reaches here, as the polluted waters on the shores constantly remind you. But the rest of the track evokes an exploratory spirit once again, something you'll need for this brand new zone. It's time for the item finder to shine. There are hidden items everywhere on this beach, and some of these items actually regenerate between loading points, so keep item finding areas even after you've walked through them. It's very noticeable that the beach colors intermingle in lines, thanks to the ash that is emitting from the top of the nearby volcano, Mount Pyrus. If you battle this trainer, you'll discover that this isn't just for show. This is actually the next field effect, Ashen Beach. Here we have another region-covering field, one that is likely to be imprinted into your brain for one particular reason. This is an interesting field, empowering both fighting and psychic, two types that get few other fields to themselves. Here's what they get. Fighting Pokemon with inner focus can't become confused. Shell Bell heals 25% of the damage dealt, double its original amount. Sandstorm lasts for 8 turns. These 4 abilities are activated, while Water Compaction boosts special defense by 2 stages on activation. Hey, at least we can finally catch that Sandygast. These abilities allow the user to ignore accuracy drops, and opposing evasion increases for their attacks, unless their opponent has Unnerve. These moves have double power, and Sand Tomb will lower accuracy of the trapped Pokemon by 1 stage each turn it is active. These moves get 50% extra power. Not that you'll see most of these for like 150 hours. Strength specifically gets a huge change, changing from normal type to a fighting move with a psychic secondary. These moves get 30% more power, and Focus Blast gets 90% accuracy. Psychic gets 20% more power, just to be that much more of a staple. Calm Mind once again gets the Gen 1 Amnesia treatment, boosting both specials by 2 stages. Kinesis lowers accuracy by 2 stages. Yay. Meditate raises attack by 3 stages. Now that... Sand Attack lowers accuracy by 2 stages, again outshining Kinesis. Focus Energy raises the user's crit ratio by 3 stages. 3. That's something we're going to talk about later. Shore Up restores 100% of the user's HP. Man, Palossand loves it here. Psych Up will also cure status ailments when it is used successfully. Nature Power is Meditate, a very good choice. Camo is Ground. Secret Power may lower accuracy by 1 stage. A Telluric Seed applies Focus Energy to the user. Lastly, there is a mechanic where stirring up the ash on the field causes all Pokemon on the field to lose 1 stage of accuracy unless they are semi-invulnerable. This happens when any special flying move or one of these are used. So this is an interesting regional field. It won't seem to do as much to you as you simply travel on it, unless you run into a ground type using mud or sand attacks. However, it can easily give you immense grief when it is used to its utmost. If there were a hypothetical major fight coming that used this field, it would introduce your face to that sand and ash. Depth 4. Difficulty 5. You'll notice that the trainer music is Trainer 2, like the one we heard against Beartic. In this region too, the wild music has also changed to Wild 2. One we haven't heard yet. Let me just encounter this single Pukumuku to demonstrate the new Oh! One try! Even with the increased odds, shiny luck is still so exciting. So as I catch the urchin, I will identify the music for you in case you have not already played Mystery Dungeon like me. That being Aegis Cave, remixed by Glitch City. I love this track, and there's a few fun parts in the music that you may hear if I let the song play long enough. Now, most of the items on the beach are not unique, but this one, after winding around this mountain, is a wave incense, next to this congregation of people. As you walk northwest, you'll see the central attraction of the island, the Academy. Let's rotate around it to the north and pick up this soft sand. Battle trainers all around the beach and pick up more invisible items. Also, if it is storming, go up the northern stretch of shore to find this Corsola to obtain if you have Pokesnacks. Heading to the northernmost end of the beach, you'll find a cave entrance. Walk in and explore for some more... Oh, here we go again. I'm not going to bother showing you most of the literal 40 minutes of digging I did, but I do want to show you something about the mining rocks. This one in particular. You see that? This means that there must be a way to remove the remainder of the rock. I wonder how, he says, even though the audience knows that he already knows the answer. What the audience doesn't know is that the item back there is really good, hint hint. Besides toiling with rocks, you can find this oval charm here, which now means that eggs will have a higher chance of spawning at the daycare when you are trying to breed Pokemon. Right on time with the Ditto we just got. Finally! 30 minutes of digging rocks and I finally got another max revive. Whenever I get one, I feel like I become much more tolerant of the mining minigame. Oh no. Oh no. Just take the Ether Waterstone and Zoom Lens and leave this twinkling headache. Go back down the ladder and go to the right now, finding this hiker who wants to trade. A Ledian for an apparent fossil Pokemon. Oh, I just happened to pull this Ledian out of this rip in space and time. Thank you for the shield on. Lastly, go nearby to find an item that is sure to get you thinking. A Dragon Memory. Oh yeah, type Null. We're going to need to pick up all of their memories, as well as find the Pokemon itself. I'm sure that I'm bringing this up so blatantly for no particular reason, but then as I'm turning to leave this cave, we run into probably the most common shiny Pokemon in Reborn. Now, don't get me wrong, Graveler, and of course Geodude and Golem, looks fucking sick with this color scheme compared to its original shiny look of slightly browner Graveler. It's just that this is the one that I became the most numb to. That and Boldor, but we'll see him later. We exit the cave and head to the southwest side of the island, following this trail. As you go, you'll fight this trainer, and you'll see that Rocky Field resides here. Nearby, a TM will sit tantalizingly out of reach for a very long time. Curse you, rock climb! Finally, you'll come to the end of the trail and find another cave entrance, which will apparently lead into Mount Pyrus. Side note, why would you actually want to enter an active volcano? Why are Pokemon characters able to enter volcanoes? Oh well, convection schmunvection, but we are not going in there just yet. Let's head for a place humans should actually inhabit, the Apophil Academy. First, along the outside of the school, talk to this girl who wants a love disc for a Darumaka, another one to mark for later. Time to go inside the school, where you can speak to a number of people, many of which ask you to study with them. Do so, which I think is required for something coming up in a moment. Heading out to the courtyard in the center, you'll find several trainers and non-trainers. After battling everyone out here, go into the 6 rooms around the edges of the yard. The top left one has a black belt inside to take. Yep, just skipping right to the end of karate class. In the top right cabin, enter to talk to Dude Bro, actual name, and he asks if we have a protein on us. You think I don't just sell every vitamin I get for 4,900? Oh, I do have one. Good thing I did too, because he gives you the field readout for Ashen Beach. Thanks, dude, bro. Go into the cabin next door to find this man who seems to be packing a bit heavy. He thinks so too, so he gives us a pure incense. The bottom right room has 2 people. First is a lady who will tell you a password, which to be honest I don't understand what it means. I think it allows you to change time like the weather mod password lets you change weather, and also speed up the in-game clock, though I don't know how that looks. I just change my computer's clock when I need to achieve this same effect. The man in this room is the Hidden Power Sage, who tells me that my Greninja's hidden power type is Fairy. Interesting, that could be useful potentially. The middle left room only has a person enjoying the peaceful island. In the last room on the bottom left, you'll find this girl who is apparently not so hot on the whole Zen meditation away from the technological world. She wants at least a TV, and says there's one in the commons area upstairs. She would really want us to steal a TV? So go upstairs and steal the TV, which gets a rise out of this other girl nearby who battles you. Upon defeating her, she begins to bemoan her TV-less life until she finds out that her roommate might be the person who put us up to this. Then she tells us what she saw, which is not us. Bring the TV to the other girl, who can't believe that we actually did it. She probably thinks we're crazy, fair, but she's fine with that. For our moral grayness, she gives us a new department store sticker. Sweet, thievery is awesome. What isn't awesome is the new floor of the department store. All they sell are the 18 type berries, the ones that reduce the damage you take from super effective attacks of the matching berry. Not my favorite items to say the least. Back at the academy, upstairs on the north end, you'll find more study partners and also this move tutor. He's got Endeavor, and if you know Fear, then you know why that's nice to have access to. These moves all have interesting uses, though I personally have never used any of them. That may be telling of my skills in Pokemon battling. Now, walk outside onto the thin balcony on the left to talk to this girl, who I think rewards you for talking to all the study buddies in the school. She gives you a Metatite. Epic. The first time that you'd actually be able to use the gym leader's ace for their fight. Of course, Kiki isn't a gym leader, so we won't have to face her. Please don't make me face her. But speaking of Kiki, it is time to meet her. So head to the only outdoor area we haven't gone to yet, to the south of the main building. In the southern training area, dig through the sand for some items, beat some trainers, and then join the lesson. Talk to Kiki and tell her you're a new student, then listen to her lecture. Afterwards, she welcomes you to the academy and tells you that she will get you situated in a dorm room. But we quickly dispense with the intros and tell her that a terrorist organization is targeting this island. Furthermore, we seek strength, the ability to tell our Pokemon to move boulders, which is otherwise impossible for any Pokemon. She then tells us that we can address these things by talking to her again in her room in the school. We go there, and Kiki then introduces us to her apprentice, Victoria. As Victoria quickly clarifies, we already met, which makes Kiki worried that I wasn't just a raving lunatic about a mechanized Pokemon destroying the island. Kiki brings Victoria up to speed about the problems we've faced since she came back here with Cal. This prompts Victoria to implore Kiki to give me the strength machine, but Kiki resists, saying that to flout the school's rules would be disrespectful. Victoria is understandably not patient in the face of an emergency, but Kiki tells her to be calm. She says that she will expedite their process for graduation since there are lives in the balance. Kiki says this can be accomplished by having us battle the school's top representatives, and we will obtain the Strength TMX if we win. Victoria says that means all I have to do is defeat her, but Kiki suggests that we could either battle Victoria or the other ace of the school, Cal. Wow, he got to the top in a big hurry. And I don't just mean the top of the school. He's also on top of Mount Pyrus, which is where we'd have to go to face him. We only have to defeat one of them to proceed. However, Kiki reminds us that the ability to use strength still requires a badge, one that she no longer bestows since retiring from the position of gym leader. Now, despite what Kiki said about proving ourselves by defeating either Victoria or Cal, there's nothing stopping you from fighting both of them. If you fight Cal first though, if my memory serves, then Victoria will no longer battle you, which means you miss out on a relationship point with her. For that reason, we accept Victoria's challenge first. I lead into this first major battle on Ashen Beach with Hariyama, and am met with a familiar sight. The Pancham is all grown up, and it packs a hell of a punch. Unfortunately, after a fake out, its multi-type strength takes out my Hariyama immediately, while using a Shell Bell to heal the fake out damage. The issue of beating fighting dark types is still dogging me, so I switch to Zeb to go for paralysis. I land the Thunder Wave and receive a crushing strength again, but Zeb can survive that one. He fires a discharge to take out a third of Pangoro's health, but I don't get the 1 in 4 chance to attack again. I bring out Camerupt and something else too. Sometimes I get too cocky and I don't bring up the reset counter. Camerupt goes for Lava Plume, though I should have used Earth Power since it has more, power. After doing a meh amount of damage, Pangoro loses its turn this time, but then goes first with Mach Punch to hit me with a crit. But in this case, that's a good crit, because Camerupt activates Anger Point again, and this time I hope to capitalize. The Earth Power actually does end the Panda, and now that I have +6 attack, I have to keep Camerupt in. Next out is Mienfoo, because Victoria has to have an NFE at all times. It is faster than my Camel, and priority of course wins and causes 1 flinch. But after deciding it needed to meditate right now, I rudely crush it under the force of a maximum power rock slide. This leads into Victoria's next team member, who has also become fully evolved. She chose to use a Dawnstone on the Kirlia, so now it's a Gallade. Since it also outspeeds and hits with Psycho Cuts, I'm assuming Camerupt is done, but he amazingly survives that too and lands 1 more rock slide. Too bad Gallade resists that as he then pushes over my Camel. I go into Meowstic next since it has a powered up move in Psychic, though I'm not sure that it will kill even with a fake out. But I'm proven wrong, and Meowstic even goes first and kills with Psychic. Now comes her ace, the heavyweight champion of the world, Incineroar. I send out my own starter, and we both use our signature moves. Of course, Greninja's has priority, but it only gets a 2 hits, while Darkest Lariat drastically damages my frog with a disgusting crit. I go first again, but I'll need some luck. That'll do. Now the fight has boiled down to her last entry, which has also evolved since last time. It's pretty safe to say that this incoming Raichu is Alolan again. God, everyone likes the Alolan one. Greninja is already pretty low, so I just let him stay out to hopefully throw more than 2 shurikens. Can't win them all. I have an answer for Raichu on both Growlithe and Meowstic, but of course Meowstic is much better suited since it will resist the move that was boosted on this field. After a fake out for tiny damage, I go for Shadow Ball naturally, which I'm astounded I'm faster with a Meowstic, but it doesn't kill, and then a Thunderbolt crashes down on Meowstic and paralyzes. Meowstic thankfully appears to have the HP to tank 1 more of those, but I have to ask RNG for 1 more favor. Now that was a big whew. Sorry I woke you up, reset counter. Victoria congratulates us on our win and leaves to tell Kiki that we can be cleared to receive strength. However, we have a volcano to see. Oh, and also Mount Pyrus. It's time to enter the cave we skipped earlier, which brings us directly into the superheated locale. Speaking of superheated, that is the name of the next field effect we have to discuss. It's not burning yet, but it surely can if you try. Superheated Field is a less potent version of Burning Field, but one with a lot of strange interactions, especially with water. Let's go over the nitty-gritty. Interestingly, this is one of the only fields in the game that doesn't give its home field or away field types a 50% change, instead opting for 10%. Fire attacks do 10% more damage, and water attacks do 10% less. Ice, on the other hand, does do 50% less damage. The exceptions to the water damage drop above are Scald and Steam Eruption, which instead get 50% more damage. Then we have these water move exceptions, which don't fall by 10%, but by 50%. Speaking of water moves, these ones will generate steam when used, causing accuracy drops for all Pokemon on the field by 1 stage, unless they are semi-invulnerable. Outrage, Petal Dance, and Thrash will only last 1 turn before fatiguing. Nature Power becomes Heat Wave. Camo is Fire. Secret Power may burn. A Telluric Seed will raise defense by 1 stage and apply a Shell Trap to the user. Now, if you do any of these moves and it isn't raining, then the field will erupt into full-blown flames. If you do these 4 moves though, it will completely remove the field. Superheated is simply a transitional field, one that a lot of the time will give way to its more furious brother. For itself, it's not the most pleasant place to fight, especially for water and ice types. But both of those types have means to manipulate this field, and it isn't the most vicious outright. Depth 5. Difficulty 4. This brings us to plotting this new field in the galaxy. And once again, we have another oddity. The map will now look like this. Why a yellow arrow? It's the way I'm denoting that a burning field cannot become a superheated field if the fight starts on burning or becomes burning from forest. But if you were to ignite superheated field into burning field, then terminate burning field, you go back to superheated. I had to look into this for this episode, and I discovered that the same thing is true of any forest you set on fire, so it turns out you can unburn the trees. For that reason, I now must make an amendment to the galaxy map. There. Probably isn't the last thing I got wrong. So Mount Pyrus, as you can tell, is a volcano, and as long as we don't touch the lava, we're okay. What's kinda interesting is that you can actually fish in the lava, but there's nothing to catch. Or is there? On the left from the entrance, there are 3 stalagmites that have smashable portions, but smashing those only summons a mad cargo to fight. We'll need to go down this ladder to the right to find something to do. On the lower floor, there's yet another lake of lava blocking us, so head down instead. There's another stalagmite there, with the rock glowing this time. You should hit that one first, but I'm skipping it in my footage cause I suck. Instead, I go down this ladder and find another one like it. Now if you smash this rock, then the pool of lava on the floor above will drain. Going back upstairs, we can cross the empty lake bed to find one path blocked by a strength boulder, and the other path with another ladder down. Down there, you'll find a charcoal in the rock. If the game randomly chooses, then next to that is a Heatmore, standing there wanting some Poke Snacks. Yeah, sure, as if this creature that lives in a volcano knows what Poke Snacks are. After catching the Durant Eater, go back up the ladder, but before heading back to the other stalagmite to open up the first floor, fall down this hole. Doing so puts you on this other island in the middle of the volcanic sea. Again, no such thing as convection. If you aren't touching the lava, then you're fine. None of that matters. Pick up that item. Oh ho ho ho! My man. Before leaving, grab the field effect readout for superheated field nearby. Now you can head up and back to this stalagmite, which will drain the first floor. You should have hit this one first, then the one below it for efficiency, but whatever, more chances for a shiny Pokemon to appear. Back on the main floor, you can now proceed across the now empty lake to reach a staircase, ignoring that hole since it just takes you to the lower floor again. Follow the ladders and paths forward while skipping the holes you see until you come to this point with the ledge. You'll need to go down this ladder and over to the left to smash a stalagmite to drain the pool of lava we just passed up above. However, since we can't go back up the ledge, head back down to the first floor. Going back to the second floor, we find a pool has been filled up on the way back up. So on the first floor, break the newly glowing rock, which fills this floor's pool again. Go back to the lower floor and drain the first floor again. Then head all the way back up to the highest floor. The pool is drained now and has a strength boulder, so make a note to come back here in case there's some kind of strength puzzle. As for now, keep going up as much as you can until you finally come outside. You'll be on the crater's rim now. Walk around and pick up a few items, and take note of the ability to fish in the lava here too. Head around the rest of the crater, absorb the light shard, and at the northern end, you'll see a less spiky-haired cow. Talking to him reveals how much of a changed man he already is. For one, his vocabulary has greatly expanded. Not entirely sure how meditation and philosophy translates to diction. He truly regrets how he acted towards Shelley, and says that his knee-jerk reaction is to blame the doctor and further, to blame his brother, who he still seems to harbor resentment towards. But he turns his anger into introspection, saying he has to face himself instead of shunting the blame onto others. He says that the enemy isn't his brother, but himself. Wait a few episodes. He apologizes for his rambling, and learns we want to battle him to prove ourselves. Despite his apparent disinterest in fighting, he agrees. Funnily enough, the guy who doesn't want to fight takes it the most seriously because he has a complete team. This is going to be interesting. First out is Barbarical, who I swear I don't remember what this thing's typing is, but I'm very happy that Zeb is out first when I looked it up. Discharge shocks the barnacle for most of its HP, but it comes back with a scald that burns. A second discharge easily dispatches it, and second is that most overwhelming of starters, Typhlosion. I leave Zeb out hoping that he can slow this thing down with a Thunder Wave, and luckily he both lives and lands the status. I blast it with one last discharge before Typhlosion repeats Flame Charge to take out my electric type. However, seeing that it has 2 speed stages, I'm not sure anymore if Camerupt could outspeed, even with paralysis. Greninja's Water Shuriken is slightly worse on Superheated Field though, so the Camo will hopefully tank a probable fire attack. Turns out I was right on one of those 2 counts. He wasn't faster, but he does survive the move. That's because that move is Sunny Day. Anyway, Earth Power throws the Typhlosion off the volcano, and now Cal is bringing out another fire starter, Charizard. Man, Cal and Victoria apparently had enough of having pre-evolved starters. I have the perfect counter to his Charizard, Greninja. He comes out and uses Smackdown, because there's nothing more sweet than hitting a Charizard with a rock. Don't be mad, I used Charizard in my first Reborn playthrough. I've been on that receiving end a million times. Unfortunately, Greninja's attack is not as good as his special attack, even with the stab, as Charizard lives to answer with Thunder Punch, but Protean is too clever for him. We defeat Game Freak's favorite Pokemon with another Smackdown. Now though, we find out that Cal found a fucking Hakamo-O somewhere. No Ice, no Fairy, but we do have Psychic, so Meowstic is up. I was apparently too frightened of the pre-pseudo, as a Fake Out and Psychic makes quick work of it. The Sunny Day that saw no usage fades as Cal decides to tap his Ace 1 Pokemon early. Magmortar is next, so I go to Hariyama to try making use of the Flame Orb and hopefully disarm it. After faking him out, he predictably outspeeds and uses Camerupt's move on me, which takes almost all of Hariyama's life and combusts the field. I'm able to land a knockoff, but annoyingly Magmortar isn't holding anything. Hariyama can't take the heat and goes down. However, now that we're on Burning Field instead, water moves are interestingly not reduced anymore, so it's back to Greninja. Water Shuriken pryos the Magmortar and a moderately lucky 3-hit takes down Cal's best. His final Pokemon is Turtonator, another Pokemon that I once again did not know its typing straight off the top of my head. I also didn't notice that Water Shuriken wasn't super effective, though it did a lot of damage with 4 hits. Turtonator comes back with Dragon Pulse, but that somehow, along with a small field burn, doesn't kill Greninja, who goes for the Water Shuriken again. Beforehand though, Cal goes ahead and Hyper Potions the turtle at half health. Naturally, this means I don't kill on the second Shuriken. Greninja's luck bottoms out as I only do 2 more 2-hits before going down, bringing the Turtonator back to where it was a minute ago. However, I have 3 Pokemon left, and I send out Camerupt to see which is faster, the camel or the turtle. The camel. Gotta say, that fight is scary, but somehow I pulled that off pretty well. Cal believes he doesn't have the same fire he did, but feels that may be best. He admits he used all fire types to beat his brother's all ice. At this point, Cal inquires into Shelly, and buddy, I don't have good news. His anger flickers for a moment, but he shakes it off, saying he won't allow himself to be manipulated by his emotions by Meteor. He tells us to inform Kiki of our victory, and offers to fly us down to the base of the volcano, which I will gladly take. I'm tired of encountering Alolan Diglets and Slugmas. I head back to Kiki's room to inform her of my victories over both of her best students. She is impressed about defeating them both, but then cuts herself off. Even though Kiki says she's alright, Victoria's ellipsis here says otherwise. As you were probably expecting, and as I have been dreading, in order to graduate, we must pass Kiki's final exam. Against her. Kiki exits to wait for our challenge, but Victoria mutters that none of this is above board. She asks us if we can keep a secret, and you can probably guess what gets you more relationship points. The secret is simple. Kiki is dying. Apparently Victoria is being prepared as Kiki's successor, while Kiki acts like nothing is wrong towards anyone else. Meanwhile, Victoria resents the burden being put on her to carry the torch of the school, bitterly lamenting life's unfairness. Walking out to the courtyard, we find Kiki waiting and Victoria standing as referee on the side. Talking to Victoria once more, she asks me, yet again, an absurd request. Beat Kiki on the first try. You know the drill. Character player yada yada, God help me. It's time to face the new music. But before I do, let me go over the team I brought to this fight on the first attempt. It's obvious that Meowstic is needed here, having Psychic. However, it would be nice if she had Reflect instead of Light Screen. After that though, the rest of the team is kind of haphazard. Hariyama may not stand up here because of the fact that moves like Strength get a Psychic typing. Growlithe is honestly not going to do anything noteworthy. Camerupt is slow and isn't necessarily hitting anything super effective. Greninja is fine, especially if he can get rid of his Dark typing, but then isn't really there for big damage. Zebstrika is also probably okay, but is not that durable. If I haven't yet done so, Let me make it perfectly clear. This fight is monstrous. Let me show you why. But first, let me introduce the anthem of my defeat. An original composition meant specifically for this fight, made by Darius and Dafor Lynx, whose YouTube channels will be in the description. This track is named Inner Peace. Yes, that's how fine-tuned this fight is. It even gets to have a unique track, and let me tell you, it's going to stick in your head forever. Especially these first few notes. You're going to hear them so often. Zeb is standing point on this fool's errand, as her initial fighter is Machamp. It probably has no guard, so I go for a Thunder Wave. It lands and takes the four-armed Pokemon's turn. However, after the following discharge, the rest of this fight is complete hell. Machamp immediately knocks out Zeb with 1 strength. Well, Meowstic will have to come out already, but that gets Kiki to pull him for something far worse. Lucario. Yeah, holy shit. I have nothing to hit that with Meowstic, so I try to switch off to Camerupt. He eats a hidden power of some kind, which does a third, but the falling Aura Sphere trashes him. I try going to Hariyama to hit the Steel typing on Lucario, and Kiki once again yanks her active fighter for something else. Toxicroak. That's 2 retired leaders that are using that species line. Remember what I said about Hariyama being bad here because of Ashen Beach strength? Well, there it is. What follows are disturbingly similar reprises of the fight with Corey. Greninja comes out to use Smokescreen, which is most likely a waste of time because fighting types ignore accuracy drops if they have the correct abilities, as the Toxicroak triple stages attack with Meditate. Then I use Water Shuriken. It still has dry skin. It also still knows Sucker Punch. I won't put you through that, Growlithe. So, did you see the big difference between this fight and the previous gym leaders? Count the number of Pokemon I knocked out. Yeah, that number is 0, which is the chance I have of beating Kiki with this team. I'm going to go now and get some more Pokemon ready to fight this horrible episode ender. And we're back, an hour later for me and 1 second for you. So now it's time to unveil the new team. Starting with who is still here from before. Meowstic, a natural pick, though I've gone ahead and maxed out her special attack. Fake Out and Psychic are all we need from her. Coming with her is Zebstrika, as the only other returning player. Yes, there are 4 brand new Pokemon stepping into the ring, and once you see them, then you might think that Zeb is a bit of an oddball, and it's true. He's definitely neutral here, but he has now maxed out his special attack as well. I know that's a stupid stat to max a Zebstrika for, but he can't learn Wild Charge at this level cap, so we'll have to make do with Discharge and Thunder Wave. His EVs are a mess, but then again, I've been using him for most of this playthrough. Now, the new kids in town. First, Behem. The Elgyem from the Totem Pole has evolved after learning Calm Mind at level 43, a move that is boosted on the Ashen Beach. Now that may not matter too much since he's slow, and these things are all using physical attacks, but since we know that damn Toxicroak has Sucker Punch, we may be able to do something funny with it. Behem is playing the same notes as Meowstic, just with even higher special attack. Next, a pair of Pokemon that are also going to be doing a duet, starting with a Pokemon I used somewhat in my previous playthrough, Emolga. Though fragile, Emolga is lightning quick, having max speed EVs. Also, it has one specific move just for Kiki's Pokemon, Acrobatics. An empty-handed Acrobat enjoys 110 attack power, and even though Emolga's attack is both low and sharing EV space with special attack, that's going to do some work. He also has static for the cheeky paralysis and can resist fighting moves. Sharing the sky with Emolga is Jumpluff. Having nearly the same speed as Emolga, which is about 20 points higher than Meowstic, Jumpluff also knows Acrobatics, as well as Sleep Powder and Leech Seed for some frustration for Kiki's team. I have high hopes for Jumpluff, but my last pick is my personal favorite, as a way to hopefully get back at the game. I think you'll understand why. That's right, now we have the fucking Tsarina, complete with Play Rough. I wasn't going to train the Bounce Suite we got because Play Rough is an egg move for her evolutionary line, but then I took a look at that bounce suite. Quickest inclusion of my life. It may not resist fighting, and may not be too speedy, but with half and half defense EV training and max attack, if this thing hits something with play rough, it's dead. So there you have it. That seems a lot more solid than before, huh? The only question now is, does this even mean anything? I begin my second attempt at Kiki using Jumpluff, whose sleep powder is going to land on Machamp guaranteed because of its no guard. Either that or I'm super lucky. I then slam the Machamp with Acrobatics, which nearly kills it, but it wakes up and proves it has an answer to flying with Rock Slide. I'm going to say this now. Every fucking major opponent in this game has Rock Slide and Knockoff and Leftovers. Just always expect it. Fortunately, Jumpluff can actually tank that and is able to finish off the Machamp. At low health, I leave Jumpluff in to hopefully outspeed and deal some significant damage to Hitmonlee, but that goes out the window with its normal gem fake out and Jumpluff is down. I don't know what kind of coverage to expect from most of Kiki's team. I go to Zarina hoping this Hitmonlee won't have something for grass types. It decides it needs to buff up first, which is great for me because Play Rough then destroys Hitmonlee before he can take off. But then comes a real issue, one I forgot to really take into account: Lucario. Without either Camerupt or a potential Arcanine, I don't have the greatest answers to it, and naturally standing up to a Lucario throwing boosted Aura Spheres around is practically impossible. My best bet is Zeb, who does have Flame Charge and can paralyze. First turn, the Gen 4 fan favorite buffs with Calm Mind, but I land Paralysis on it. This lets Zeb go first on the next turn to take a chunk of health with Flame Charge, but the following Aura Sphere is of course too great for Zebstrika. Even with Lucario's speed halved, I know that some of my team may not outspeed, but I need some serious oomph to take this thing down, so I go to Behem. I'm rewarded with a clutch missed turn on Lucario, which lets Behem's Psychic knock down the damn fighting Steel type. But coming out now is Medicham, Kiki's ace, quite a bit early. This is going to be tough, because like Lucario, Psychic is not one of its weaknesses. Flying is though, so I go into my fastest Pokemon Emolga, though I'm not confident in a one-shot Acrobatics right here. What you'll see when it arrives is that it is holding a Telluric Seed, which gives it Focus Energy. Let me remind you that a Focus Energy on Ashen Beach is buffed, giving 3 stages to the Pokemon's crit chance. In Generation 7, that equates to 100% crit chance. Yes, this thing will crit on every attack, including this strength, which immediately takes down my Emolga after not quite killing on the Acrobatics. However, Emolga's static mercifully paralyzes the Medicham, meaning I have no problem bringing in Zarina to crush Kiki's ace with Play Rough. Out next is that slimy Toxicroak, no doubt wanting to hit weakness on my Zarina. I go to Behem since I'm fully expecting it to Sucker Punch any Psychic type, so I can set up Calm Mind on it. However, I'm wrong on this, as it immediately goes to Poison Jab me. That's a third of my life gone, and now I'm stuck with a problem. If I use Psychic and it goes for Sucker Punch, it will most likely kill. But I don't have a choice anymore, since I can only survive one more Poison Jab. I go for the Psychic, and remarkably the Sucker Punch doesn't come. Poison Jab takes me down another third, but Psychic easily ends the 4 times weak Toxicroak. Last attempt, we beat none of Kiki's Pokemon. Now we are at the last one. Gallade. Once again something that isn't weak to Psychic. What's worse is now my 2 flying users are fainted, and even worse than that, Gallade also pops a Telluric Seed. Behem had no chance to go first and faints. I can go for Play Rough on Zarina, but Gallade is faster than her too, and downs her with 1 strength, of course being a crit. I have only Meowstic left, and I have to go for Fake Out to Psychic and hope. This time Meowstic is faster than a Gallade, but he survives, and ends this attempt with Night Slash. Kinda deflating, isn't it? You want to know the worst thing of all? This was a good attempt. Coming up next is what happens on a not good attempt. It starts better than last time, with Jumpluff taking out the Machamp without taking any damage. Now Kiki moves her ace all the way up to 2nd string. I keep Jumpluff there to probably outspeed and land another Sleep Powder, but the luck to land the sleep is not mine, and Medicham decks my Jumpluff with a crit Ice Punch. That's about as much damage as my team could possibly take. Now watch as this Medicham completely dismantles my team. Zarina isn't fast enough. Zebstrika isn't fast enough. Emolga can almost kill but faints without staticking Medicham. Finally, Behem comes out and incredibly tanks the critical Ice Punch and even insta-thaws to finish off Kiki's ace. Coming out next though is Hitmonlee, and I failed to remember that it's going to Fake Out. After that, Hitmonlee goes first anyway to knock off my Behem. Now I just have Meowstic left, who is also not faster than Hitmonlee, but can somehow live a full power knockoff and even still beat the Hitmonlee. And then when you see this, what do you think is going to happen? Of course. Even with this team that took her down to one Pokemon, if even one of her Pokemon gets a foothold, especially that Medicham, you're finished. Now Kiki has taken more attempts than any gym leader thus far. The next attempt sees Jumpluff take no damage again as Medicham returns to encore the previous attempt. This time, luck grants me the Sleep Powder hit, but after Acrobatics gets agonizingly close to killing, the Medicham immediately wakes up and clobbers my Dandelion Pokemon. A single Fake Out from Meowstic is not enough to kill, but my Meowstic continues to surprise me with her speed, as she goes first to gently push over the weakened Medicham. Coming out next is the Super Smash Bros. Character, so I send Zeb out to meet it like before. The first turn is the same, Calm Mind and Thunder Wave hit, but I try Discharge this time. This proves to be my undoing, as the damage from that is far too little as Zeb is blasted away. Behem comes out and gets that same paralysis luck he got, but the difference in HP dooms him, as he then gets launched into orbit. Then here comes a really frustrating sequence. First, Kiki heals Lucario. Fuck. Acrobatics doesn't do half, and after bringing Lucario to red, Hidden Power drops my frail Emolga. Then Kiki heals again. Mega fuck. Once again, Psychic is not going to two-shots, and Meowstic also goes down. My last is Zarina, for far too many opponents remaining. She can take out Lucario, but then comes Toxicroak, and though she survives one poison jab, she does not kill him with Play Rough. Muck another attempt. And muck the next one too, as Jumpluff takes out Machamp only to fail the Sleep Powder on Medicham. We already saw how that will go. Attempt 6, Machamp once again deals no damage, and Medicham is put to sleep. I'm infuriated when it wakes up again as fast as possible that I go to check if Medicham has Early Bird. It doesn't, by the way. But since I hit it once, Emolga can come out and outspeed for a knockout. Once again, we play the same scene as before with Lucario, but this time Thunder Wave misses. Zeb, of course, doesn't get a second chance, and my attitude toward this attempt is dim. Now what? I go into Behem and start playing at the Calm Mind game. Lucario also thinks he needs more power to beat my Psychic type too, so we both spend 2 turns mirroring each other. I know that the Lucario is going to go for an attack at +6 of course, so I have to as well. Lucario's move is Hidden Power, which is a type that Behem is weak to, but he surprisingly lives, and also does a surprising amount of damage with Psychic. Of course, Behem is finished, but when Emolga comes out, my Flyer goes first and kills with Acrobatics. Next though is the damn Gallade. This time I have an Acrobat to hit it with, but there's no way it takes out in one— What? All of a sudden, it seems like I may win. I see Hitmonlee is walking in, so I get an idea. Hitmonlee is going to use Fake Out on whatever I use and boost it with a normal gem, but Meowstic is fast and also knows Fake Out. Boom, no more normal gem. Meowstic then mops up Lee, and we are down to one more, Toxicroak. I can only hope Sucker Punch can't kill Meowstic. Holy moly, what a slug match. Back and forth wrecking balls, momentum shifts that would give you whiplash. This fight is all about speed, because with all these crits flying from Gallade and Medicham, if you don't sweep those fuckers, then they're unstoppable. Which got me thinking about something as I was writing this. I decided to go back in and try something. Recall that the reason that Emolga and Jumpluff were holding nothing is because Acrobatics doubles its power if you are empty-handed. Well, what if we didn't start empty-handed, but then became empty-handed immediately? What if they started with a Telluric Seed? Machamp, as Cal used to say, Machump. Lucario, smart move, but Psychic isn't enough. Medicham, aced. Toxicroak, Sucker Punch, sucks to suck. Hitmonlee, Jumpluff survives the Fake Out too. If it outsped there, Jumpluff could have maybe gone the distance, but Jumpluff passes the baton to Emolga. Hitmonlee wastes its last chance on Meditate. Gone. And finally, Gallade. We already know what happened here, and that was without permanent crits. This goes to show, do not sleep on those seed items. Use the field effects. They don't have to be there just to crush you under their unbelievable opposition. They can take my okay but decidedly inconsistent strategies and turn them into surefire wins. Now let's take a look at my previous files team. You can see that I now got that Dusclops I praised in episode 2, though that is not an Eviolite it's holding. As for the rest of the team, you can see I didn't change very much. This led to one of the worst fights in this file. Camerupt seemed to be my finisher in most of these fights for some reason, even though that's completely unbelievable given his speed. He even had full HP, so we have overcome the sensei of Apophil Academy, and that means we are due. Kiki comes to in her room, as Victoria is trying to aid and calm Kiki. Kiki, though, has little positivity left, as Victoria tries to console her. However, Kiki tears herself down for her weakness despite her efforts, and mocks her own mantra and regimen in the face of the disease she's afflicted with. Victoria can't stand seeing this, telling Kiki that her doing this to herself only makes it worse. She then rips into Kiki for keeping all this secret and lying to everyone, saying that it's only done more damage. Kiki admits it's true, saying that her teachings about mental and spiritual peace felt like a farce when she can't do it herself, so she chose to lie about it. Unfortunately, there's another thing she lied about. She does not have the strength TMX, believing it to be stolen. She had us battle Victoria, Cal, and herself to stall us for more time to find it. At this, Victoria is done and leaves. Kiki ends the conversation with a meek apology, as we head outside to hear more from Victoria. She apologizes on behalf of the school, obviously overwhelmed by the speed at which everything has deteriorated. But bad news continues to arrive, as we learn from Victoria's aide Letty that there have been sightings of suspicious people and machinery on Azurine Island. Victoria says she must stay here to run the school, and asks us to take our boat over to the other island. What kind of wicked machination will we find there? And what other lies have been told?